Hi, this is Dr. Darnise, and I am back with African Spiritualities Part 2. I just decided to go ahead and make that other video that I mentioned in the previous video, Part 1, which was African Spiritualities in the media and how it's been portrayed recently. So much recently, over the last 20 years maybe. And in that video, I talked about how African spiritualities are portrayed, particularly in the show Queen Sugar. And I mentioned that it's set in New Orleans, and then I started to talk about, what makes New Orleans so ripe and special in North America for African spiritualities, and just as a geographical region. And since I mentioned it, I said, well, I may as well go ahead and make part two. So that's what this is, part two, and what makes New Orleans so special. So now, if you know anything about New Orleans, maybe you live there, shout out. Um, People associate it with, Mardi Gras, kind of excessive behavior, like people go there to drink and kind of run rampant through the streets at Mardi Gras. Or they also know something of its history and they're like, oh, it's a lot of voodoo culture down there, and yeah, it's really cool. Or else, oh, it's really scary. It's weird. People are weird. Um, and so, what I wanted to come on and say is just that, why, if it's weird, why is it such a unique mix in America? And so, I'll tell you, if you haven't listened to my videos before, I am a religion scholar. I'm in Los Angeles. I teach at a university here in LA, and I teach African American religion, African American history. I also teach American religions. So this is my wheelhouse, and I'm kind of a nerd about it, and I like to talk about it and teach about it. So New Orleans is this place, well, Louisiana is this place where, in the beginning of American formation, so to speak, when African people were being brought here in slavery, it was the French Catholic people who brought African people to Louisiana. And, as opposed to the British Protestants who brought African people to the American South, the other regions of the American South. But because the French Catholics brought the African people to Haiti and to Louisiana, what we see in New Orleans is this very lively, still today, very lively uh, population and mix of cultures there. Still. And it's pretty amazing. So I love to go there. I love going to New Orleans. It's hot as Hades. But I love going there because it's like you can just touch it and see it and taste it. Literally, you can taste it because it's in the food, right? There's the African, there's the French, there's the Spanish, there's the, what American, so whatever that is that has evolved over time. So we get cultures like the Cajun and the Creole. They're all mixed. So what do you have a mixture of? African traditional religions, African spiritualities, which I'm always talking about, right? Then you have that mixed with French Catholicism, right? Because those are the people who brought those African people. And nobody comes as a blank slate. The African people don't come as a blank slate with no spirituality. The French are, right? Because those are the people who brought those African people. And nobody comes as a blank slate. The African people don't come as a blank slate with no spirituality. The French are, and they're saying, sorry about that little glitch happened. My phone cut off or something. Anyway, the French Catholics, who are the enslavers and the colonizer, right? They're telling African people, this is what you're going to be now. You're going to be Catholic, and you're going to stop doing much of the African stuff you've been doing because that's illegitimate religion. That's not even religion. That's just black magic and devil worship and all of this negativity about African culture. But the other thing about the French was, even though they would say that on the outside, and they understood themselves to be good Catholics and would take their slaves to Mass, they were a bit more permissive than the British Protestants. The British Protestants were very hard, hard line, religiously and racially and culturally. Much less race mixing was allowed, even though it happened. But among the French, they were like, well, you might be my slave, but I don't think of you as less of a person, not a human being. So I can still have some interaction with you. And the French tended not to police the African people, the African American people, so much. So the African people had more flexibility in how they integrated the African traditional spiritualities with French Catholicism. And so they mixed it together. We call that syncretism, but it's just a word that means mixing together. There's no such thing as pure religion. Every religion is mixed with culture and whatever the teachings are. Every religion on the face of the earth. Another video topic. So in New Orleans, what you get that's so special is the African, the French, the Catholic, the Native American, the European. And because it's been this culture that's more permissive, generally speaking, you can literally hear it, taste it, touch it in the city itself. If you have ever heard Zydeco music, I love some Zydeco. If not, just go to YouTube. You're already on YouTube. Type in Zydeco, 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 Zydeco. And it's this type of music that's this mixture of cultures. And it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. You know, people play washboards and accordions, and they've got the African bass and drum. I mean, it's just kicking. It's kicking dance music, basically. So anyway, this video really is about, you know, what makes New Orleans so special culturally and religiously. It's made room for African spiritualities. It really has made room for it. It's made room for African culture. If you've heard of Marie Laveau, she was known as the Voodoo Queen of New Orleans in the 1800s. She lived about 1800 to 1880 or so. And there's still monuments to her because she was considered to be so powerful that she was a practitioner of African traditional spiritualities as well as Catholicism. If you'd asked her, she would have said she's Catholic, like many African Americans in New Orleans or throughout Louisiana. They'll say they're Catholic, but then they have their home altar too. Anyway, I want to wrap it up. Let me know your questions and comments. Like, share, and subscribe. And as always, I'll be back with more.